So the '02 Zinc Yellow Mustang GT project has been on hold, mostly because I bought an entire car for the engine because I needed an engine for this car, and that car ended up being a really nice '04 silver Mustang GT, and this car was wrecked when I bought it. But when I got it home, I realized it was such an opportunity with only 62,000 miles and in decent shape that I did end up just cutting the front off and having a new front clip welded in, and I did all that work. So that's held me back from this zinc yellow project, and this silver GT has been a really nice motivation for me as well, because I can look over at this car and see all my hard work and how well it came together, and that gives me motivation and hope for the yellow project car. Now this yellow one needs a lot more than the silver one needed. The silver one had a running engine and everything in it when I got it, so the yellow one is a roller and it's going to need a lot of work. So now I can get back to working on this car, and I daily drive the silver one, and my wife does as well. So one of the things I wanted to do was get this beat up old taillight that my brother had used on a project. He tried separating it, but he was nice enough to give this to me in the meantime so I could put it in the car, since I only had a driver's side taillight out of the Sonic Blue project car, and this car was missing the taillights when I bought it. So at least it looks like a car now, so when the neighbors drive by they don't see a car that looks like it's being parted out. And the next thing I did was I got the sun visors out of my Sonic Blue parts car and installed those in this car. I did take the visors out of this car for the silver one because I needed those, and so that's something else I did do for the zinc yellow cars. I got that back together. So I'm planning on getting most of the interior back together on this car, and then I can work on all the other stuff that the car needs. So it's like get the interior all put back together in it, and then shut the doors and work on the outside of the car. So I've been trying to keep it protected and keep it under cover. I know covers aren't good because they'll scratch the car in the wind and stuff, but this car's paint is not 100% anyway. I just was more worried about it fading in the sun, but I did get a bunch of parts for this car. It didn't even have a trunk lid or spoiler on it when I bought it. It didn't even have wheels, you know, so it's looking more like a car now. So it's time to start working on it some more. Up the interior and get the interior all settled away. I do have a pair of front Mach 1 seats I could put in it, and a rear seat for later. So there aren't going to be seats in it for now because I might as well store those in the garage. But you can see the door panels are missing. The rest of the car is pretty clean inside. I cleaned this all out and vacuumed it, so I'm just putting some pieces in here for now. But the biggest problem that I want to address today is the door switches. The whole harness was cut when the previous owner was parting the car out. They just cut all the wires. So this whole harness needs to come out. Luckily I did get the whole harness out of my Sonic Blue Mustang parts car. So I have the parts. I just want to install the whole wiring harness instead of try to fix that all up. So these cars roll relatively easy with no drivetrain in them. I've pushed the Sonic Blue one by myself, but in this case the steering shaft is missing. It's been cut as well, so I'm going to replace that. But I just had someone pull it with a Tahoe while I moved the wheels just to get it across the yard, and it doesn't roll on the gravel as easily as it does on a flat paved surface. But another reason I want to move this into the driveway is because it's very unmotivating to have it out in the rocks on the side of the house, where I go out there and I don't want to roll around on the rocks to get underneath it. I did do the whole repair of the silver GT on the rocks out here, and it just wasn't very fun. I had to get boards for the floor jack and everything, so I might as well just get it into the driveway. So now that the car is in the driveway, it's much more motivating to work on it. I can go do a little bit on it. I have my toolbox here nearby, so if I need something I don't have to walk all the way around the house and find the tool. So the first thing I did was I started disconnecting the harness and just pulled the whole thing out. And I had just done this on the Sonic Blue car. I made a video about it. So I got all upside down and twisted up and reached up here on the dash, and I unplugged the wires, the harness connections, especially the ones that you pull through the door. So that's kind of the more difficult part about all this. But once you pull it all through the door, then you can just feed the old one out. And I wanted to make sure to put it back exactly the way I got it out. And so here's the new harness, and putting the new harness through, and then having the old harness next to it so I can just kind of follow where it went. But I think this might be a Mach 460 car. So here's all the switches and the tweeters and everything. And so I ran all this back to where it needs to go. And then, of course, on the other side, same process. And getting up here, you can take the glove box and push on the tabs on the sides and drop the glove box down and get to those wires and harness connections a little bit easier. So there they are. And of course, feeding it through the door and getting the old one out. And I fed the new one in, so obviously that's what this is. And then these are the Mach 460 speakers. They have the Z on the back of them. They have the bigger magnet. I believe this is a Mach Audio car because it has the top of the tray in the back that has the kidneys that say Mach 460 on it, but it doesn't have the rest of the Mach stuff. So here's the door panels and the tweeters I'm going to install. It had a set of kind of fake ugly tweeters on there, so I'm not sure if it's really a Mach 460 car, but I guess we'll find out. But then, of course, feeding the door handle through the door panel. This is always a little bit challenging. There's tabs on the back that you want to make sure all go into the slots so you're not pushing them and cracking the little poles that are supposed to go into the door that are attached to the back of the door panel. Just getting everything lined up and getting the door lock post through the hole and hanging the top of the door in the groove by the window. So getting all that lined up can be challenging, but when you play around with it, you'll figure it out pretty easily. It's not that difficult. I've done this quite a few times. But looking over the car, I look at this nice Ford stamping and everything, and I think about how nice of a car this is, and it's too bad it was about to be crushed. It was already parted out, and so I'm happy to be working on it. You can see all this damage that occurred from trying to straighten the fender out just to get the hood to close because this side was twisted up so highly. But I got the bullet wheels on there, and from the doors back, it's a very nice car. It's not perfect, but it's definitely a nice car and a true Mustang GT, 5-speed car, black interior. So a lot of things I love about this car. Love how it looks with the bullet wheels on it. I do have the center caps, but I'm just saving them for a while. Of course, seeing the motivation there, the silver GT. This is the one that I had done a similar process to, and I've been enjoying it every day, so that keeps me motivated. So here's a couple GTs in my driveway looking good. And anyway, this is how the car looks now with all the door panels on it, and the interior is basically back. The Mach 460s in there, the center console's in there. If you saw the other video, I did all that. Even the radio bezel and stuff was all gone and missing, so at least that's together. Now the last thing I wanted to do for the day was fix this crack in the bumper. It doesn't have to be perfect, so I just clamped it, and I had some Gorilla Glue to get it there, and it actually made it quite straight, and it dried nicely. So that's the update for the zinc yellow Mustang GT. Still more to come, a lot more to come. This is a pretty big project. It's going to take a little while, so no big rush on it, but I am excited to get to be working on it again. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and stay tuned for more Mustang content.